For the UMass Lowell Hockey Riverhawks, an important weekend ahead, but that's a cliche. They're all important at this time of the year. The Riverhawks Friday night will visit the Agganis Arena in Back Bay, Boston, and face the Boston University Terriers. The two teams will play Saturday night at the Tsongas Center. Joining us now, the head coach of your Riverhawks, Norm Bazan. Norm, welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I want to start where I like to start. Let's analyze the past weekend. A sweep, a 6-3 win on Friday night at UMass Amherst, a 3-2 victory back at the Tsongas Center against UMass Amherst on Saturday. Your impressions of the weekend gone by, please.
Well, we're certainly very happy with the outcome. I thought it was a spirited weekend. I thought we had energy, especially on Friday when you can start off the weekend with a win on the road. And in that fashion, I think you're starting off very, very well.
There were so many positives out of last weekend I want to talk about, and there were some spectacular offensive plays on both nights, so on and so forth. But what I wanted to start with was that which was, for me, the most lasting impression. The final 2 minutes on Saturday night, the Riverhawks leading by a goal. UMass Amherst hoping, I suspect, to pull the goaltender, get an extra attacker on ice, and put pressure on the Riverhawk net. They couldn't get the puck over the red line. They struggled to get it out of their zone because of the Riverhawk forecheck. In some ways, that made me more proud to be a Riverhawk fan and broadcaster than anything else I saw during the weekend. I see it brings a smile to your face as well. A terrific final 2 minutes.
No question. We played with a lot of urgency in that final 2 minutes. We held lines. We had great angles. And there was certainly a can-do attitude, and I was very, very impressed with the guys and how they finished that game.
Is there a specific approach that you tell your team to take in, let's say, the final minute of play or final 2 minutes of play in a one-goal hockey game?
Well, you try to make sure the guys realize that pressuring the puck is still very, very important, and not allowing the opposition to gain zones is also very important, because then you don't have to defend in your D zone. And that's certainly very important as far as them pulling their goalie, getting the extra attacker, and everything else. So it was a good moment. It was a good step for us to be able to play that hard for a good 60-minute game, and hopefully it pays dividends here this weekend.
It was a terrific weekend as well for Derek Arnold. He was named by Hockey East as the Player of the Week. Had the game-winning goal on Saturday. I might have been more impressed with a couple of the goals he had on Friday. While they weren't game winners, I thought they were huge goals in the momentum of a hockey game. And momentum shifts numerous times during a game. Both of his goals came in the final couple of minutes, maybe even final minute of a period, and both, one of them was just terrific individual effort and play, but I thought, boy, Derek Arnold, who's been playing both ends of the ice very well all year, stepped it up to another level this past weekend.
Yeah, excellent points you bring up. I think the timeliness of his goals were as important as the number of goals, and whenever the opposition scores and you can respond quickly, it bodes well for you and your team, and Derek seemed to be the guy who responded for us. So we're very proud of his efforts. I've said all year long, I think he's a better hockey player this year than he was last year. Even when he had 2 goals, I certainly thought he was a better hockey player. I can use him in a lot more situations as I did last year, and I think he's becoming a very good, complete hockey player.
I want to ask about it, and this is something we don't talk about very much, the use of timeouts. Typically, coaches, I think, save their timeouts until a point very late in the hockey game when they may need to get an extra attacker on ice. That seems typically when they're used. You used it in the second period. There'd been a flurry of goals on the ice. I think it came after an icing call, and I'm just curious, what's your approach to that one timeout that you as coach are given?
Well, if you remember, if you look back on the instant, our team was tired, exhausted. We had iced the puck, and it was back into our zone. The shift had gone on for a minute already, and they had scored to make it 3-2. And I thought another goal wouldn't have, been very good for us heading into the locker room. So if we could head in there with a 1-goal lead, so I thought that was the best time to call my timeout.
Do you, on a timeout after an icing, are you allowed to put any group of players out?
Yeah, after a timeout, you can put whoever you want on the ice. And these guys were too exhausted to continue. More importantly, they could have continued. You always can. However, to get fresh legs out there and to go into the locker room with a 1-goal lead was very, very important.
This weekend, we also saw Connor Hellebuyck back-to-back games. He'd been sidelined for various reasons for a bit of time. How'd you like his performance, his response over the weekend?
I thought it was decent. I thought he played some good hockey. I think it was important for our coaching staff to find out if he could play back-to-back nights, and I thought he was better the second night than he was the first, and there wasn't any more thought process to it than that. We wanted to find out if he could play on back-to-back nights, and I thought he responded well.
Let's turn our attention to our opponent this weekend, Boston University. We have seen them once. The Riverhawks won that 4-3. It was not an easy hockey game. There are no easy games in Hockey East, but this is a terrific hockey team we're seeing this weekend.
No question. A talented hockey team, a plethora of offensive forwards that come at you in waves. I think it's going to be very interesting to gauge their second wave attack from their defensemen. But overall, I think we compare very well. It's going to be a matter of bringing our A game to the table and playing well on the road on Friday.
What tells you if we've got our A game?
Well, it's a number of things. Most of them are non-offensive things. I think if we have sharp changes, if we pressure the puck very well, if we take the body, those are all signs to me that we're on our game. And if we do all those things, if we go about it the process, the results take care of themselves in the end.
Now, I talked to Derek Arnold this week and hadn't planned to ask you this, but you mentioned you can tell we have our A game, and it's non-offensive things you see. I asked Derek Arnold about getting hot of late offensively, and what he pointed to were non-offensive things, playing the defensive zone, various other things. I guess offense is simply the result of doing everything else right rather than doing something special offensively.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's about the process for us, and these guys are starting to realize that, and I'm very impressed with the maturity they're showing as the year progresses, because when we're good in our defensive zone and we do a great job in the neutral zone, offense usually comes in bundles. And the games we've been very good offensively, we've been at our best defensively.
This is the stretch run. Is the stretch run different from the rest of the season? And if so, are there things we learned last year in the stretch run that we apply this year, or that your players learned?
Well, I think it's all of the above. I think the guys learn from experience, having been in those situations before. Stretch runs are full of anxiety. They're full of nervous times for some of the inexperienced guys. I think it's exciting hockey. There's a whole different level of urgency come this time of the year. People are trying to make playoffs. They're trying to get home ice. They're trying to win the league title. All of the above. So it's exciting hockey, and I think when you can get the guys on the same page and playing with some calm and some composure, then it bodes well for your team.
And I guess finally, and not sure exactly how to phrase it, but what's the key this weekend, and what's the key to those various things you mentioned? Getting home ice, doing well in the playoffs, winning a championship?
Well, I think it's a work in progress still. However, I think it's going to be very important to play with composure and discipline this weekend. I think there's going to be more anxiety in some of the inexperienced guys. It's going to be up to some of our older guys to calm things down out there. Whenever you're playing on the road, it's that way. However, at the end of the season like this, it gets to a whole new level. But I like the little things we're doing, how we're improving our game. You mentioned the last minute of Saturday night. Those are all good experiences to go through, so you can duplicate them in the future. And I think our guys are slowly learning how to win, and that's very important.
Okay, I lied. One more question. What you talk about with the experience and composure and poise, to me that speaks to the question of leadership. While there are not a large number of seniors on this hockey team, there is a large group that has been through quite a bit together. This year, last year, and for many of them, the year before as well. Do we have the leadership we need to have in this stretch run?
Well, you can always have more. Guys emerge as the season goes along, but I feel we've got enough leadership to do a great job. And it starts with your captain. Riley Wetmore's been terrific. He's going to continue to be terrific. He's a go-to guy. I think Ruhwedel and Holmstrom have been really growing into their positions. I think Colin Wright is certainly improving and certainly adding to that leadership and helping out. There's a number of guys. Thompson is doing a great job. For the month he's been captain. So I think we have enough leadership. It's a matter of guys playing big roles and making sure they play them to a T.
And again, the Riverhawks. Friday night at Boston University. Saturday night, Boston University visits the Tsongas Center. We assume it's going to be a packed house. Norm Bazan, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Bob.